I would like to see how I look.
There you go.
Okay.
Okay. Okay.
What's that?
That's for the sound, because sometimes the sound is off. So you have to like do something so it's easy to line it up.
Okay.
That's why the clapboard is there for movies and stuff.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Sometimes it lines up perfectly, no problem. But then for some reason it doesn't sometimes. I don't know. Anyway.
Here we go.
Here we go. All right. Welcome to Buddhism. This is the number 2 lecture. I'm thinking there's going to be a third because my poor little computer, my little MacBook Air, can only handle about an hour at a time with filming and editing and all that good stuff. And I love Buddhism, so you guys are getting a lot of information about it. Special guest Peanut Gallery today, my sister Caroline. One of the reasons I like having her here is because she asks good questions that you guys might have. And that way you're not sitting there wondering. And it kind of breaks up the monotony of just staring at me and slides.
And I'm also learning right alongside because I don't know.
It's true.
I don't know this stuff.
It's learning alongside.
I know like the basics.
You probably know more than you think you know.
I know. I always know more than I think I know.
It's just from hanging out with me.
It's just from hanging out.
It is. It's just. That's it.
It's not at all.
She doesn't do any reading or anything like that. No.
Reading. Unless it's a picture book. Nope.
No, that's not true. Actually, she's
Is
pretty.
Is this information available in the September issue of Vogue?
No.
Well, I don't care.
Although it might be. I don't know. You know, Vogue has done occasional very deep things. You know.
They have.
So there you go.
Fashion's
all right.
Important.
Fashion. And the Dalai Lama. Oh, his choice of colors. Very bright. Very bright. Saffron. Exactly. All right. So welcome to Buddhism 2. Well, let's get started. Come on. My computer's futzing with me a little bit. All right. So to review, I just wanted to really quickly review in case you didn't just watch the first one. So for Buddhism, technically, it's atheistic, right? They don't believe in an eternal deity in the same way that Hinduism did. The idea of self is an illusion, so there is no difference between you and I.
I knew that. We sound exactly alike, so.
We do. Mm-hmm. I always had fun with that on the phone when our friends called when we were young. Hey, is Caroline there? Uh-huh, I'm right here. What'd you want?
I forgot about that.
That was always fun.
You did fake them out, though.
I did.
That's good job.
Thank you. All things are an illusion. So remember, like I said, there's no difference between you and me and the computer. Like everything is unified in reality. And this idea or this separateness is actually an illusion.
Okay.
All an illusion.
I have a hard time with that.
I know. It's one of the harder things to get your head around.
Harder? How about hardest?
I don't know if
your
it's
whole
the
life
hardest.
is an illusion.
No, Nirvana's the hardest.
Okay, you're right. Yes. Nirvana, what is it again? The absence of nothingness?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah. How do you even do that?
I'm actually going to adjust volume right now, so I apologize to you guys. You may have to adjust the volume a little bit because I'm going to get rid of this mic so that you can hear her better. Okay. There. Nice. And now the mic is for both of us.
Okay.
I forgot I had this on. So the 4 Noble Truths are dukkha, like dookie.
I'm 5.
Exactly. So dukkha is suffering, this idea that suffering is part of life. Trishna, which is desire, suffering comes because you want stuff. The 3rd Noble Truth is nirvana, which is the absence of all things, including nothing. And then the middle way, the middle path, right, which is about correct action, correct thought, correct sincerity, correct all that other stuff. Correct everything. But the point is that it is taking the moderated way towards enlightenment. So he starts off by denying his body. He joins a group of ascetics that starve
I
themselves.
tried to deny my body this morning.
You were not successful.
No, I was not.
No, and then you ate an Oreo, and
shut up.
That's definitely what I've had several Oreos today.
Along.
Okay, fine. Anyway, so remember he joined the ascetics that tried to starve themselves, denying the body.
Yes.
And then he still didn't reach enlightenment and said, "Screw this noise.
Yep.
Hey, rice pudding. That's good." And
Is
he
that
ate.
what he said?
Yeah.
Really, rice pudding?
Yeah.
It was really rice pudding?
Yeah.
Was it delicious rice pudding?
I don't know if it was
delicious.
mushy
ass mushy rice?
Mushy ass rice pudding?
Yeah.
They're adults, they can handle it.
Oh, okay.
It was probably mushy ass rice pudding because it was like 500 BCE.
So it wasn't really delicious.
It wasn't like Southern Granny's rice pudding.
No.
Nothing is. That's okay. All right. So, come on. There we go. So he attains enlightenment. He teaches for a long time and then he dies, right? The first Buddhist council takes place in about 480 BCE. And this is where they kind of codify the teachings, including the Dharma, shortly after he died. So this is their first attempt to kind of bring Buddhism into a cohesive whole. Because remember, after the founder dies, what happens?
Nothing?
No. The religion splits.
Oh, right. Well, yeah.
See, she knows this. She doesn't.
I thought you meant to the founder.
Oh, no. The founder just dies.
Right.
You know. Unless you're Jesus and then you come back.
Stop it.
Anyway, the doctrine that comes out of the first Buddhist council is called the Pali Canon. It is the Tipitaka, and that's kind of like the first core of sacred texts. And it covers the Sutta Pitaka. Yeah, I always pronounce it wrong. And this is the basket of teachings and doctrines. The Vinaya Pitaka, the rules, and the basket of discipline. That's your favorite.
I have a basket of discipline.
Where is it?
Under my bed.
Right. Hold on. I am actually going to increase the size of... There we go. Thank you.
Oh, yay. I can read it now.
So the basket of discipline. And then the Abhidhamma Pitaka, which is the reflections on the Dharma theology.
Mm.
All right. So this is the first core of scriptural corpus, right? So the first
scriptural corpus.
Yeah.
And how does the word corpus fit into that?
Well, corpus in Latin technically means body.
Body.
Yeah. So corporation.
Okay.
Corpus Christi, the body of Christ.
Okay.
It's like a body of anything that can be the physical
I'm just
body.
wondering.
No, it's okay. Totally cool. But this stuff was actually written down much later. So the tradition says that they agreed on it during the first council, but they actually write it down significantly later. And we learned from Christianity, remember, when you write things down a lot later, it's
never
sometimes
the same as it was originally.
Yeah, oral tradition.
It's the Gospels according to, I don't know.
Jeff, God of biscuits.
The God of biscuits.
Yeah.
Scones. Gospel according to my cat.
Exactly.
Yep.
Telephone, exactly. It's not quite as bad as telephone, but it's still telephone.
Generally the same concept.
Yeah. So the second Buddhist council comes in about 100 years later. And it's in response to a split in the Sangha, right? The Sangha is kind of like the followers of Buddha, but they're all kind of monks and nuns. And there's a disagreement about the use of, for example, gold and silver, whether or not they can carry over some things from one day to the next, because they're supposed to go and beg for their food every day, right? And not theoretically. Sure. I know. They have to eat before noon. So they have like one big meal a day and that's it.
This is already getting to be too much.
Well, that's okay. We're going to get to Mahayana Buddhism later on, and that's like the Buddhism for us.
Okay.
It includes
lazy Buddhism.
The lazy Buddhism that has Oreo cookies and mochas.
I'm down with that.
And we all know how I feel about mocha.
Yeah.
Yeah. Speaking. Wow. Mocha.
You guys, she literally cannot live without those.
Anyway, so what we end up with like the elders, the traditionalists, and then there's a more liberal community party, right? And that leads to 18 schools of traditional Buddhism, and then you continue to get further splits. Yay!
What
does it eventually evaporate out into at its farthest reaches?
I would venture to say it is more splintered than Christianity.
Wow.
And you know how Christianity is like within America, you can have a single church that represents a particular theology, and even within like Methodist or Episcopal or Lutheran, the pastor really creates his own or her own special brand of that theology by answering the questions of that particular community, and Buddhism ends up in the same direction.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm. And even more so. All right, so like I said, the initial canon is actually, the whole thing is called the Pali Canon. Pali is the language that predates Sanskrit. And Sanskrit is the parent language of ancient Latin, ancient Greek. And of course, those split into the Romance languages and other Greek-based languages, and it's all Indo-European. So the Pali Canon has the three, the Tipitaka, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. I keep trying, but you know. All right. Let's see here. So you are your own protector, your own deity. What other protector and deity can there be? This is from the Dhammapada, and it's kind of like the Hadith. Remember, in Islam, you get the Hadith literature. Do you remember what that is? You know a little more about Islam, I think. Do you? Maybe not.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Okay. The Hadith literature in Islam is, it comes in later after the Prophet dies.
Mm-hmm.
And it's all of the sayings of the Prophet. So all of these people come back.
Okay.
You know, like you get new questions after the Prophet dies or after the founder dies. Like, but what happens if, you know, I ate a fig and it was a bad fig and it was going to be, I don't know, it's something, you know, weird crap that comes up, those little details of everyday life. And so this happens after the Buddha dies as well, and this is the Dhammapada, all right? And these are the recordings of the Buddha, and they end up being written down around 250 BCE, all right?
Recordings.
Kind of like the, you know, hey, I met a guy.
Transcriptions.
And, kind of, but...
Kind of like someone was his secretary, and they wrote down what he said.
Kind of like somebody heard it one day and then they came back and said, hey, I heard this.
The retelling.
Yeah, the retelling.
Gotcha.
There you go. All right. It tends to be very practical, focused on the removal of suffering, not so much about the origin of suffering or the origin of being, but like how do I deal with today, right? So there's a great story. A man from this, the Dhammapada, a man came to the Buddha and asked many questions and required their answer before converting, right? And he's like, well, before I convert, I need to know these things. Does the world have an origin? Will the Buddha survive after death? And the Buddha answers him, you know, you want to know all about the arrow after you were shot, before you will allow the arrow to be removed, right? Mm-hmm. So you are suffering. You've been shot by the arrow. And before you allow me to remove the arrow, you want to know where the arrow came from, what kind of feathers does it have, where was it shot from, who shot it, who made it, what kind of bow. Let's just remove the arrow, shall we? And that's the whole point, right? So it's kind of like little proverbs, little stories that come out to help deal with practical things in day-to-day removal of suffering.
I feel like that guy wanted to know all about the arrow before he was shot with it.
No, the point is it was sticking out of him.
No, but I get that little story.
Yeah.
But he's saying that he had all the questions and he wanted the answers before he converted.
Mm-hmm. But the conversion is the removal of the arrow.
Is it though?
Yes.
Are you sure?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Anytime you use the word conversion?
Oh, I know.
Terrifying.
Our family has our whole family is very non-converty.
Exactly.
Right.
Don't try to convert me to
Don't
coconut
try to
sugar.
Yeah.
Monk fruit.
Oh.
Mm-mm.
Our sister Marilyn is all over the coconut sugar and
Monk
coconut
fruit.
Milk and weirdness.
Yeah.
Oof. I don't know, but it is kind of like a religion for her.
See?
Yeah.
Conversion.
Yeah. Anyway, so there's this whole problem with monks, right? Not a problem with the monks, but not everybody can be a monk or nun. I don't have time for that.
That was not a yawn.
Oh, I know. But at the time, that is how you would truly practice Buddhism and the path towards enlightenment. So the whole point of a monk, like part of your duty, is to give people the opportunity to give to you.
How gracious.
And it creates good karma.
Sure.
So that maybe in your next life you can come back and be a monk.
You don't want to have too much good karma built up.
Well, yeah, that's another point.
I thought that stuff was to go in the bank. Just keep, like, I was going to be sitting on my mounds of karma from my life.
Well, you would rather create good karma than bad karma.
Yeah, but apparently there is such a thing as too much good karma. You said it. Well, according to Dr. Nancy Meyer.
It's going to keep you on the wheel of samsara. So if your goal is to get out of the wheel, you don't want any karma. But okay, so here's a little Zen saying, right? If karma is dust on the mirror, right? And you are the mirror. So your goal is to get rid of the dust on your mirror. But the real truth is there is no mirror.
Because there is no me.
Yes.
Whatever. Okay.
Anyway, you can't have monks and nuns without the generosity of lay people in that. To be a good Buddhist is to be generous for the preservation of the Dharma, which is giving to others, giving to the world, and of course that identifies with the no self theology. So right, no self.
No self.
There's no you.
There is no me. I am but a...
So the duty of a monk or a nun is to give the lay people the opportunity to give. And so it creates a symbiotic relationship there. The community of nuns, and remember there's context. I know you weren't yawning.
Nope.
Remember the context of this, right? So this is like between 500 and 200 BCE. The story goes that the Buddha's aunt, right, asked if he would be willing to ordain her as a nun. He initially refuses, but eventually agrees, but he gives her a bunch of extra restrictions. And so the eldest, most senior nun is actually below the youngest, most junior monk, which I think kind of sucks. But again, within Hinduism...
Inequality in totally. Buddhism.
But within Hinduism, there were no ways for women to become ascetics.
Super inequality in
So it Hinduism. Is a step up. It's allowing women into that sphere, even if it does so in an equal way. Okay?
You can come in, but we're going to treat you like garbage.
Well,
but
yeah.
You can come in.
But you can come in. And the fact that they could go in was radical at that time.
So radical.
All right? So within Hinduism, as a woman, you could not achieve enlightenment. Mm-hmm. Buddhism, at least, allows for that at the time.
You can try.
Okay? There are still quite a few nuns in China, but it's been mostly lost in Southeast Asia. I wanted to give you a look at some of the monasteries throughout East Asia, especially. Initially, monks and nuns wandered, but eventually they start to kind of settle down in monasteries. Mostly because in India, especially during the rainy season, it's really hard to wander. And of course, weather anywhere is going to create a problem at certain times of the year for wandering. So here we have monasteries in Bhutan, in Mongolia, in China, and then one in Tibet. And you can see they're all quite isolated. So they become centers of learning and Buddhist practice. So the monks are there and the nuns are there. But there's also a really interesting emphasis on education. And so they also become centers of education for liberal arts, medicine, and they become the center of Buddhist life in general. They are more vulnerable to persecution. It happened in India around the 11th and 12th centuries CE. Invaders from Pakistan come in and, of course, people are concentrated at the monasteries and they're not defended, right? Buddhism is inherently pacifistic because of no self. If I die, it's okay.
Where's the part where we talk about the Kung Fu master?
Oh, well, those are the Shaolins. I'll have to do those later. I don't think I even I don't even have slides for them. I think for the next section, I got to do Zen, Shaolin, and I'm going to cover Soka because you go to a Soka school, and so you should know a little about it.
Yes, we're going to do Shaolin because everybody loves Kung Fu fighting movies.
Everybody was Kung Fu fighting?
Everybody was Kung Fu fighting.
Alrighty.
Yeah. How fun is that? You know, the fight where like two warring schools and then meet up on the mountaintop at the temple.
Panda.
So good. No, there is no panda in Kung Fu movies except for that one that you watched.
Well, yeah.
I'm talking about actual real ones like Drunken Master.
Was he Buddhist? Was there Buddhism in there?
Well, they're all like Kung Fu guys.
Yeah, but that goes beyond Buddhism.
Okay, look.
All right, anyway.
In Kill Bill.
That's definitely not Buddhist.
I can't even with you.
Okay. So there is this great irony because after Pakistan comes in and persecutes the Buddhist monasteries, there is a lack of Buddhism in India. But it goes into China, Japan, Korea, Southeast Asia, so Vietnam, Thailand, Cambodia, goes into even Malaysia.
All the countries. Goes into all of those areas and really gets firmly rooted. So it survives there. Like everywhere.
Kind of. Not quite everywhere. Theravada Buddhism is our first big school, and this is the oldest one. This is kind of like the old school monks and nuns, very prevalent in Southeast Asia. It's a major school or sect. One of them is called the Nikaya, and it is, like I said, kind of like part from... I hate it when I get tongue-tied. It's established on those elder practices. Not yawning again?
I'm sorry. It's that time of day. I'm just having that issue.
I understand. Okay. It expanded in Sri Lanka, and it preserves those really old practices, right? So there's a focus on the Sangha, the monks, and the nuns, and it is focused on the way of discipline. The majority of monks dwell in villages and cities, and they focus on teaching and serving the needs of the lay people, including education and spiritual guidance. Smaller groups are located in the forest, and they are focused on meditation. Buddhism, of course, is tied to politics because religion is always tied to politics in some way, shape, or form, and economics. In Southeast Asia, and the monasteries and the kings of Southeast Asia have been intertwined, and they give legitimacy to each other. So the king supports the monastery supports the king, right? There's a back and forth there. With Aung San Suu Kyi in Myanmar, Burma, she kind of brought that Buddhist fearlessness into the political landscape. And that's part of that no self, right? I have nothing to fear because I don't actually exist as an individual, right? So I'm not afraid of death. I'm not afraid of persecution because this is really an illusion, right? And so she has been taken that fearlessness into politics and has tried to, is still working on bringing democracy to Myanmar in a bigger, more prevalent way. She is not without fault, but, she's human. All right, so the next thing we're going to look at is the next major schism in Buddhism, and this is called Mahayana Buddhism. So if you are practicing Buddhism, you are practicing a form of Mahayana Buddhism, and it's also called the Great Vehicle. It was developed a few centuries after the Buddha died, and it is in contrast to what they call the Lesser Vehicle. Right, so the Great Vehicle is kind of like the way that everybody can practice Buddhism and work towards enlightenment. And the Mahayanists claim that this was the real teaching of the Buddha. The others were meant to get us started, but they weren't quite the final teaching. But there's one particular way to salvation, and this is, I know, and this is the way. but that really is an oversimplification. So the question becomes, if this is the one way, and this is coming up several hundred years later, where the hell was it before, and why wasn't it revealed?
Right.
Ooh. So this is where they talk about skillful means, right? Were the earlier teachings a lie? And the Mahayanists would say, and this includes, like I said, it includes Tibetan Buddhism, it includes all these other forms. They would say it wasn't a lie. It was a way of skillfully luring people into the true way. Right? Very like that. Very like that. So it was creative, and it uses words in a way to get people to kind of get onto the right road before we can really reveal the truth. So the story goes, he gave these particular teachings to specific bodhisattvas, which are, bodhisattva is a, not quite a Buddha. It's one who's really close to enlightenment, but hasn't made that last step for a number of reasons. Not all of his disciples were taught the true way, and so they were hidden for many years until we were ready.
Not all of his disciples.
The Buddhas. We're going to get into some of the Buddhas in a minute, and you're going to love these names.
I do love a good Buddha name.
I love a good Buddha name.
So they're not really named like Laughing?
Well, I mean, they get nicknamed the Laughing, but I'm talking like Shakyamuni Buddha.
Oh, Shakyamuni.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, let's do it.
So scholars actually have no idea where these teachings actually came from.
That's a problem.
Are they revelations? Maybe. Are they visions from past Buddhas? Maybe.
Isn't that a revelation?
Kinda, yeah.
Okay, just saying.
But I think the point is that we don't know where they came from, but it does open up Buddhism in a really big way because it expands the universe. Hey,
What's
baby.
A Buddha belly.
That is a little Buddha belly. She doesn't have a Buddha belly anymore.
She did.
Okay. So it opens up the universe, and we're going to see some of these. The Mahayana Sutras. These are the sacred texts. It is the later canon of Buddhism. And it follows kind of traditional Hinduism in that there's a huge amount to study, right? They don't have, like when we're looking at Christianity, they have the New Testament and the Old Testament. And even for Mormonism, they have the Book of Mormon, the New Testament, and the Old Testament. And you can fit this into 3 good books, right? 2 small ones and 1 big one. Yeah, it's not true for Hinduism or Buddhism. They have volumes upon volumes upon volumes of text to study. Some of these are Chinese, some are Tibetan, some are in Sanskrit, some go back to the Pali. Are you enjoying that?
It's funny.
So,
good.
Yeah, she's
I'm
digging
good.
in. Okay.
Oh,
no, you're not.
No,
Good. She's trying to get. She's trying to get over your. Sorry, Tubbins likes to use her claws.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Are you okay? All right, there you go.
You're asking her if she's okay?
Are you
I'm
okay?
the one with puncture wounds. Okay.
Right, we're gonna put Tubbins down here. Get on your cat tree. There you go. Okay.
Okay.
So the Pali Canon from the Theravada school is also part of this, part of what they consider sacred text.
When do we get to Tibetan Book of the Dead?
That might be in the next lecture. Yeah, it's going to be later. The list goes on. Some of the more important texts of the Mahayana school include the Lotus Sutra, the Heart Sutra, the Diamond Sutra, all of which are part of the Prajnaparamita.
Why are you doing this?
Because I'm counting.
Oh, I thought you were doing like a...
No.
That would be more Hindu.
Lotus, heart, diamond.
Yeah, it's more of a Hindu
Well,
thing.
yeah.
Or is it...
It's usually like this.
Doesn't Kuan Yin have her...
I think she has one hand.
Oh, yeah, she has...
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay.
Anyway.
Sorry, guys.
It's all very symbolic, and I can't ever remember what they all mean.
She remembers enough.
It also includes, in Japanese, the Taisho Tripitaka, which includes commentaries, and like I said, the list keeps going.
By the way, there's no R.
I think that one is a Tripitaka, but I could be wrong.
You just want it.
Anyway, I won't put that on the quiz. How about that?
Okay, good idea. That's not going to be on the quiz, you
That
guys.
part won't be on the quiz.
I saved you.
So the basic teachings, from Mahayana Buddhism focuses on the bodhisattva ideal. And this is about becoming a Buddha in a future life. So like I said, the bodhisattva is not quite a Buddha. It's like one step away. Sometimes there are bodhisattvas that are bodhisattvas by choice because they want to continue interacting with humanity. And sometimes it's because they have that last little bit of karma left to work off and figure out. But they haven't quite become Buddhas. But they're on the path, but they're not going straight to nirvana, and they come back to help us. So they have and cultivate wisdom, including the no-self doctrine, and compassion, actively seeking the welfare of others.
I like it.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good way to go.
Yeah, I like it too. Like I said, they might choose not to become a full Buddha until everyone can become a Buddha, and there's several bodhisattvas that fall into that category. But in Mahayana Buddhism, the universe, like I said, expands, and it's filled with bodhisattvas. All right?
What is that in front of them?
I'm not really sure, but it was a really cool image.
It is a cool image.
Buddhism is something to be practiced every day by normal people. And you garner good karma by giving food to a monk or nun. But now we can say that lay people can pursue the teachings of the Buddha, not just giving to monks and nuns, right? So you can pursue enlightenment. You can pursue becoming a bodhisattva and eventually a Buddha, which is kind of cool.
It is cool. Sounds like it's really time consuming.
No, because the whole point is that you can do this with your family, in your home. You can still have wine with Paul and Olga on Saturday night, right? And practice and continue to practice and learn and develop the philosophy of no self and compassion. So the bodhisattva is engaged in the world within the context of daily life.
I think that's wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
Have we ever met a bodhisattva in our contemporary time?
You know, you wouldn't know because the bodhisattva is that person that's really kind, that might strike you as being, you know, an exceptionally kind person. They might be a bodhisattva.
Oh my God, I'm a bodhisattva.
You might be. Moving on.
I mean, I am a kind person.
I know you are. Except when you drive, you tend to be angry then.
Rude.
Just saying. Another doctrine is the bodhicitta.
People are stupid.
And this is the bodhicitta is the mind that seeks enlightenment, that aspires to seed enlightenment for the sake of other beings using wisdom and compassion. The bodhicitta is the person who is pursuing the path of the bodhisattva. So they see themselves as being connected and interdependent to all other beings with self-awareness. They have a sense of their own Buddha nature arising, and they want to help other people. They want to help other people so that their own Buddha nature can, you know, come up and flower. There are 6 perfections of the bodhicitta: generosity, good moral conduct, patience. I misspelled patience there, too.
Yeah, I was like,
I know.
Are
it's
they
okay.
doctors?
No, they're not.
Okay.
Courage.
Check.
Concentration.
0.
Wisdom.
Yeah, I mean, you know.
You're on the road to the bodhicitta.
I'm on the road. Except for that concentration.
I don't know.
I'm screwed.
Generosity when you're driving is.
Sometimes I'm very generous when I drive.
You can be very generous, but sometimes when someone makes a mistake, you get really mad.
I wouldn't call what they do as making a mistake. I would call it committing an absolute felony against my heart.
Fair enough.
It's different.
The point is any person can pursue the path of the Buddha.
Oh.
All right.
I like it.
I know, I do too. So like I said, there are all kinds of Buddhas everywhere. And in this regard, it kind of starts to look like Hinduism or any number of other traditions that have large pantheons. But they're not...
What's a pantheon?
A pantheon is like the scope of the gods, like the number of gods. So
Okay.
Hinduism's pantheon
Can't
has
assume
like
people just know these words conversationally, because when you say pantheon to me, what do I think of?
a panther.
No,
Oh.
I am not that
Okay,
simple.
sorry.
No, the pantheon.
Oh, the building, the pantheon. Yeah,
Yes,
the Roman building.
Of course,
yeah.
that's the first thing I think of.
Right.
So, okay, continue.
So the number of gods, but these are not gods. They're actually Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, and they would say they are more powerful than the gods. They are kind and generous, unlike the gods. And they are not eternal, because they will eventually become full Buddhas and achieve enlightenment and nirvana and kind of lose their selfhood.
And then they'll stop being kind and generous?
Well, because they won't really exist. They will be part of nirvana.
Oh, that's right. Nirvana is not kind and generous.
But nirvana, if you take this to its logical next step, then nirvana is everywhere and nowhere at the same time. So the Buddha is a part of you, but separate from you at the same time.
Okay.
Remember the whole dualism thing? They don't do the dualism thing.
Duality.
It's bad. So the Bodhisattva ideal is an opportunity for all of us to pursue Buddhism and to become enlightened. Like I said, a Bodhisattva is a person or a being on the cusp of Buddhahood. But they haven't fully worked off their last bit of karma, or they have chosen to stay to help. The universe is much bigger, and there are celestial Buddhas and advanced Bodhisattvas who have achieved kind of superhuman powers, and they reside in the heavens, kind of like gods, but they're more powerful and more enlightened.
Do we have a zodiac for them?
No.
Do they have like constellation
No, because there's thousands of them. Tens of thousands.
There's tens of thousands of those too.
Constellations? Anyway, some of the most important... What? We don't have tens of thousands of constellations that we can see.
I was going to say, you can't speak to that.
It's true.
Can't talk to that.
All right. So anyway, some of the more important and more popular Buddhas or Bodhisattvas. The first one is Avalokiteshvara.
Avalokiteshvara.
There you go.
Avalokiteshvara.
He weeps and sees our suffering.
Oh.
He is. You can find him in the Lotus Sutra. He takes many forms, but he is the manifestation of compassion, especially to those who call on him. Right.
Aww.
So you might have a mantra. There's a specific mantra for Avalokiteshvara. I don't know it and I probably couldn't pronounce it even if I did know it. He's very, very important in India and Tibet.
But he is not big in Japan.
I'm sure he's there in Japan. The female representation of Avalokiteshvara is Tara and Kuan Yin.
We were just talking about Kuan Yin.
I love Kuan Yin.
Hey, I know that painting.
You do know that painting because it's on my wall.
Right
there. In the back, yeah. So the bottom one, the painting is actually was actually done by my husband because he knows I love this stuff, so he paints it for me. Mm-hmm. So Avalokiteshvara is associated with, like I said, Tara and Kuan Yin. Kuan Yin is the Chinese counterpart to Tara.
And hence her holding the lotus.
Yes. And she has her little hand.
This.
Right.
Yes.
See? The Bodhisattvas of compassion.
I do
love
love her. I do love Kuan Yin. Or Tara. Whatever.
Or Tara, Maitreya Buddha. See, that's pretty easy.
Maitreya. Oh, okay. So he is
that
guy.
He's that guy. He's the fat laughing Buddha.
I love that guy.
I love the laughing Buddha.
What? I would like to find myself one of those.
I think you could.
Yeah. No, I mean in real life. A fat laughing Buddha guy.
I think you could.
That'd be great.
I totally think you could.
That'd make me happy.
And
Okay, go ahead.
I'm not sure he'll be on OK Cupid, but you could probably find it
Probably not. He's on OK Buddha.
OK Buddha. Buddha date?
Buddha date.
There you go.
B date.
J date. There's a Muslim one, there's a Jewish one, there's a Christian date. I'm sure there's got to be a Buddhist date.
Oh yes, Christian mingle. Buddhist mingle.
I like that. We could try that.
Except that I'm not Buddhist, so that would probably.
You're kind of Buddhist.
Kind of, but I mean, he'd be like, "Hey, how's your
Buddhist self coming?"
how's your new self coming? How's your meditation coming along? And I'm like, oh, I have to go.
All right. Anyway, Maitreya Buddha is the future Buddha. He is waiting to come and start the teaching of Buddhism all over again. But we can call on him if we need him for help. He was very important in China during the Tang Dynasty. Still very important in China. But like we said, he's the fat laughing Buddha. Sometimes he is in the image of a monk with a bag full of things that he can give people.
Oh, okay.
What does that sound like to you?
Santa Claus?
He is, in fact, the Santa Claus of Buddhism.
Sounds
What? Oh, noise. Ice maker.
Does sound like Santa Buddha.
He is. He's actually
Santa
been kind of
Buddha.
equated there.
There's a song. Let's go on. We could make that song.
I don't know if he'd put a sable under the tree, though.
No, he wouldn't. He would put other things under the tree. Again, we can create that song in the next 10 minutes after this is over.
Okay, that's true. We can work on that. All right. Manjushri. He is the patron bodhisattva of scholars and wisdom.
Oh.
So his sword slays ignorance.
That girl.
And he has a book
pointer.
or a scroll.
That's dangerous.
In it is. He has the sword to slay ignorance, and then the book or the scroll to that holds wisdom.
The sword slays ignorance.
Yeah,
I like it.
Need
him when I'm driving.
Yeah, I'm not gonna comment.
Shut it.
His name means gentle glory.
Ah.
And he might be the oldest of the bodhisattvas in the sutras. So he embodies kind of transcendent wisdom. Oh, that girl. Right.
Wow.
Within the Vajrayana tradition, he is considered a full Buddha.
Just stroke your...
He is considered a full Buddha within the Vajrayana tradition. And
not like a mini Buddha.
He is the focus of meditation. And we'll get to Vajrayana later on.
We're never going to be friends.
Yeah, no.
Focus of meditation.
Meditation's really hard for me, too.
That is hilarious.
Amitabha Buddha.
Amitabha.
He is the Buddha of what's called the Pure Land. He is one of the Buddhas of the Pure Land. So the Pure Land is a different doctrine within Mahayana Buddhism. And he has established the Pure Land of lotuses. And you can achieve it by chanting his name. And then you'll be born into the Pure Land, into like a tight little lotus bud. And when the bud opens, you will look upon the face of Amitabha and understand and be enlightened.
How many times do I have to say his name to go through that experience?
A lot.
No.
That goes back to meditation.
I thought I'd give it a shot tonight.
You know. He's very influential in China and Japan. He's also fairly prevalent in America. So this is one of the forms of Buddhism that Americans really like. But this moves people away from self-reliance. And remember, part of Buddhism was it's your path, right? Who is your Buddha but you? You are your own Buddha. One of the things I tend to do in class a lot, you may have noticed. I don't know. Anyway, so this moves on into territory that looks more like on veneration of the saints or stuff like that, veneration of Mary. But again, when we're looking, because initially in Buddhism, it's all about you practicing your own path, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you are responsible for your own path. You are responsible for your own enlightenment.
Right.
With Amitabha and the Pure Land, you are actually putting that responsibility on Amitabha. Because you chant his name,
Oh, okay.
You come into the Pure Land, and upon looking upon him, you understand and are enlightened.
Gotcha.
So it's actually his responsibility. And so I'm kind of equating that to veneration of the saints and Mary. You know, I screwed up, I need help. Whenever I can't find something, I pray to St. Anthony for help.
I do.
Right?
Every time. He always works.
Always.
Yeah. Do you guys know the St. Anthony prayer? Because it always works.
I think we talked about it in class when we were doing Christianity.
Okay.
Maybe. I don't know. Email me if you really want it.
Yeah.
So this kind of comes in conflict if you're a Buddhist purist. This comes in conflict with that, but it's also I think part of a natural evolution because human psychology tends to be what's the word I'm looking for? We tend to need help. We want help. We want to relate to something and ask for help. Right, and so all of these Buddhas are kind of a manifestation of that desire for assistance, and this would be one of them. What?
Nothing.
Did Rick just give us a nasty look?
No, not at all.
Oh, okay.
He was carrying something for lunch.
Oh, okay. The last Buddha that we're going to look at on this one, and we're at about, 45 minutes, so the next one will probably be another 45. This one's my personal favorite. I love Jizo.
Jizo Krizo.
Exactly. He is very popular in East Asia, so he's really popular in Korea, Japan, and China. He has lots of different names that I can't pronounce, so I'm going with the Japanese.
It's that guy.
Yeah. I can't pronounce his other names with any measure of success.
Is it? Where are they?
I didn't even write them down.
You could have given me a shot.
His name is translated as Earth Treasure, Earth Store, sometimes Womb or Matrix, and the like.
I wouldn't want to be called a womb.
Well, he is responsible for instruction of all beings in the world until Maitreya comes.
Aww.
So he is like
a kindergarten teacher.
Yeah, kinda. He has sworn a vow not to become a full Buddha until all the hells are emptied of suffering souls.
What a good person.
So in Buddhism, if you die with a lot of bad karma, like one of the theologies is that you can become a hungry ghost. And these hungry ghosts...
That sounds horrible.
It is.
It also sounds like Pac-Man.
Kind of. These hungry ghosts get kind of moved from death into this kind of hell where they wander the earth and they have these super long, skinny necks. And they're always hungry and thirsty, and they can't ever be sated.
Count me out.
So Jizo is there to try to move everybody from that hell back to
go into the light.
Incarnation, so that you can become a Buddha.
Sorry, I went poltergeist.
That's okay. Ooh, poltergeist. Ooh.
Hi, Marley. Hi, Jojo.
So, like I said, there's many worlds in Mahayana Buddhism, and the universe is incredibly vast. And so you get this proliferation of Buddhas. Jizo, I also love Jizo because he is also the guardian and the patron of deceased children, including terminated pregnancies and miscarriages.
Aww.
So there are rituals in Japan dedicated to Jizo where people will go to like a lake and they will light a candle and set it out on the lake, and Jizo is there to usher the souls of young children who could not be born, or young children who died.
That's so sweet.
I love that.
I love this guy.
Yes.
This guy's definitely my favorite.
Yeah. It's one of the reasons he's my favorite, too.
I liked Tara, but, I like Kuan Yin.
Oh, I'm a lover of Kuan Yin.
But I do like Jizo.
But Jizo is really sweet.
Jizo.
And you can see that top picture. He actually has baby bibs on him.
Oh, stop
tied to him.
How sweet is that?
That's so sweet. So if you know any children or have little kids, Jizo is there. Jizo's their guy. All right. So we're going to stop this here. Next time, in the next lecture, hopefully at the very beginning of next week, we are going to look at Soka, because like I said, I want to give you an idea of the foundations of your university.
Good idea.
And then we're going to take a look at Vajrayana Buddhism, which is that Tibetan Tantric Buddhism, and look at the Dalai Lama because he's a really interesting character.
He is also funny.
He's also very funny.
And very cute for
very
a man.
Sweet, yeah.
Very cute older man.
Yeah.
Like, you just want him, you wish he was like your grandpa.
Yeah.
He's the grandpa that we always wish we had but didn't have.
That's
true. Even if you have a fabulous grandpa, I'm not saying.
Yeah.
I'm just saying he could be an additional grandpa.
Yeah. I like that. All right.
He's adorable.
Until then, take care of yourself. I will see you again soon. Take care of your family. Stay well. Stay safe.
Stay healthy.
Yes. And
thanks for letting me hang out with you guys. This was always fun.
It's always fun. It kind of makes it easier for me too. All right. We will see you soon. Bye.
Bye.